Ta-da! Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday Show. Really excited about today's show. We do talk quite a lot about mental health and well-being on this show, and today is no exception. Talking with a massive friend. I don't mean physically massive. I mean emotionally massive. A friend of mine in the mental health field. Let's bring him on straight away after possibly the worst intro I've ever done.
Hello, my darling man. I love that. Massive.
Yes, emotionally massive. I mean, because you and I are long-term friends. Link, really, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's lovely. I think you have been on the show before at some point.
Probably.
Yeah, I'm sure you have. Oh, more than once actually. I think you're a bit of a regular, but you've got a new project coming up, which I'm involved in, and I want to hear all about, and I'm sure our listeners do too. So, just give us a little bit of backstory about you. Sort of, who are you, and how did you get to where you are today? Just in a nutshell.
Okay, I'll try and do it really quickly because it's quite a long journey. So
we've got an hour. We're cool.
We got an hour. That's cool. So 20 years ago, and that's the poignant thing I think with my new project. I've got twin girls. They're now 33, and this time 20 years ago, as I was approaching my 40th birthday, I'm approaching my 60th soon.
Come on, you can't be approaching your 60th birthday.
Oh, I am.
You don't look a day over 49.
I feel it. Sam was diagnosed with the early stages of an eating disorder and OCD, and we spent the next. I mean, obviously, we went through all the emotions and everything, and as a family. But one thing I never dreamed of, that we wouldn't be able to get her better. We wouldn't be able to take her somewhere, and they would fix her. We had no real experience of mental health issues, and 20 years ago they weren't really talked about as they are now. In a nutshell, we spent the next 4 or 5 years trawling the system, both private and NHS, trying to find the right help. And then all to no avail, and the family was falling apart. And I just probably had this mother's intuition to discharge her. And I worked with her myself with the help of our GP, who was great, and the girls' school, and we did it as a family. I mean, obviously, it wasn't that straightforward. I learned a lot, made a lot of mistakes, as we all do and as we all have. And then Sam sort of went into recovery. She still has OCD, but the eating disorder has subsided. But I believe that OCD is a form of an eating disorder anyway. I did a thing for charity, and someone bought their friend whose daughter had an eating disorder, and she said, would you help her? And I said, look, we're scaffolders. I didn't start doing this. I did what I did for my own daughter, and it went from there, Neil. I've never advertised. I'm not formally qualified, and people come from all over the world. I've got quite an unorthodox approach. I then went on to write 5 books, the Hope range, for which Neil is part of all of them. Hope with Eating Disorder.
Well, I mean, I remember walking into the office you're sitting in now, I think, when you invited me around your house to meet you, because I was doing a local seminar for Radio Jackie, teaching people how to use their voice effectively. It was just a local drive by one of the local organisations. And I met Sam there, and she was lovely. And we got talking, and I walked into your office, and I realised, oh, she's a Hay House published author, her mum. Wow, what is this? Then noticed it was more of a kind of therapy room than an office and all that. I'm like, what's going on here? But, I mean, it must take so much. How did you find the courage to distrust the authorities and go out on this unknown journey by yourself? Because that's incredible when you think about it. Because we're all trained to think the authorities, mental health authorities, know what they're doing, and we all know they're super overworked. But in this case, there was literally nothing that was working. No,
nothing. No, we literally exhausted everything, and we ended up. I won't say where we ended up because I don't want to name names, but we were just sitting in this meeting, and I just looked around at Charlotte, Sam's twin sister, my husband and I, and we were worlds apart from each other. We were all in one room, but we weren't together. And we were known for being together and being a strong family. And I just thought, and I listened to I just thought, there's got to be a better way. I didn't really believe, because nothing was changing. She was getting worse. We were losing her. And it was getting to the point where it was touch and go whether we'd actually, she'd actually make it.
Wow.
So it was just a mother's instinct, and it wasn't straightforward after that. It was a very
No, I want to explore that a bit. I mean, if you're willing to share it, because there must be, I think I always say about these shows, because they're all recorded, and if someone finds it tomorrow or 10 years later, it could provide, excuse me.
Oh, shut the cough up.
It could, yeah, excuse me. It could provide a message of, to use your brand, hope to anyone. But where do you begin to solve a problem like that when you don't even know where to start? Okay, so you've left the traditional mental health authority.
It's about trusting. As a mum, I always say to people, as a mum or a parent, a father, a parent, no one knows that person, even if it's a friend, no one knows that person like you do. And you just trust your instinct. And we were very lucky, not lucky, we were supported by our GP, very supported by our GP, who also sort of probably went against the system a little bit to say that he would take physical care of her. The school, Hinchley Wood School, were absolutely amazing. They were by our side all the way. And I've got some really strong friends around me. And obviously Kevin and I, you know Kevin really well. He's like my dog. He at the time, and he's quite open about it, didn't understand mental health at all. And I think at first he sort of thought that it had destroyed our family life. And we had a lovely family life. And I think it took him a lot of time to accept, to understand it. He even to this day now, he still doesn't understand it, but he accepts it. But it is about the person, you know, it's not all down to me and the family. Sam wanted to change. She didn't want to be where she was. So that person that's suffering has to want to get better. They have to want to fight
Sam, for her diminutive stature, is a feisty little firecracker.
Yeah.
And I know what you mean about
I'll tell you said that.
Determined. Well, I hope she's listening. I would say it to her face. She's absolutely lovely, as is Charlotte. And I'm good friends with Sam and Charlotte to this day. Don't see enough of them, actually, but there you go.
I don't think any of us see enough of each other, if I'm really honest, Neil. We need to change that. Time just
so how long was the process of getting her to
it was probably about 3 years. I think Sam never really felt she fitted in at school, never felt that she was the norm, if there is a norm. And I think this is what's wrong. What I see is wrong, or perhaps troubles a lot of the young kids today, is that they feel they have to fit into this box and they don't.
Well, I would say a good cure for that is put the message out there that there is no norm. You're here to be you. You're here to be you.
What I think they have to believe in, that they can be themselves. And she found herself through drama.
Yeah.
So she struggled at school. She's dyslexic. If you read her poetry, she's struggled at school. She was severely dyslexic. She did get
her poetry is extraordinary. That's like almost channeled from the soul. Her poetry. I read her poetry. It's like, God, she's been here before.
Yeah. So she found herself. She did a drama degree. She got a degree. She did it at Kingston College. So she stayed at home. And then she was troubled again with OCD, which Neil, I have to say, was a really brilliant support to her. I'll never forget that day when I came home and you were sitting in my living room with her and she was crying her eyes out. So that I will always thank you for.
It's all right. I was honoured that she trusted me enough to call me.
Yeah, very much. So she's found her own journey through. She's written poetry. She writes. She's written a book. She's working on her second book now, published by Hammersmith Health Books, Hope Through Poetry. So she's sort of finding her own way. I then went on to write my books.
Tell us about your books. Give us the library.
Right. So the books, I've got them here in case you did ask. So we've got the main one is Hope with Eating Disorders. So, and then we have Hope with OCD. Then we have Hope with Depression and Hope with Anxiety. So I wrote those, and that's Sam's book, Hope Through Poetry.
Hope Through Poetry.
And all the time I was working with people. We also run a scaffold company, so I was doing that as well. And then coming on to I felt that I hadn't finished what I'd been put here to start, or the reason that we've gone through that. I'm quite spiritual, and for a bit after the pandemic, obviously some people were on a high, some people were on a low. We were asked to do a short film, A Day with OCD. And at first, and it was fun. After the pandemic, it was fun. My family came back together. Charlotte was pregnant with my gorgeous grandchildren. They're twins as well, a little boy and a little girl, Reggie and Georgia. And we had fun. You were in that as well, Neil, weren't you? And it was fun. And then we did it for fun, really, and to help for a charity. But then
I played a really annoying office manager, if I remember rightly. I seem to fall into that role very easily.
It got picked up by several film awards, and we were shortlisted.
Well, you did. I remember there was a showing up London. In fact, that's when you were on the show last. Because I was doing the show. I was doing the show live from London when it was MRS.
And you did it with Sam.
And you and Sam was on it. Then she had to disappear downstairs for a photo call. Which is fine, but that was and Neil Fox was there, the DJ. Samantha Fox was there, no relation, if I remember right.
I Am Phaser, N-Dubs.
Yes,
he was there. No, it was very support. Jess in Peasy. It was really supported, and the work is supported. Let me just turn my emails off.
That's all right.
So. Then we went on, we thought, we've got something here, because they're a satirical look. So rather than, when I was going through it with Sam, everything was so depressing. All the books that I read were depressing, the documentaries you'd watch, nothing gave.
What I found with those books and documentaries was, if you'll pardon my pun, a lack of hope. That they were very good at articulating the problem. And we all knew what a massive problem it was, but there was very little solution focus. There was very little... What happens to the people that got better? How did they do it? Where's the hope? Where's the light at the end of the tunnel? It was all very dark, like you say.
It's right. Kevin was going to take a picture, but Paul's not in it yet.
Oh, Kevin's more than welcome to take a picture. Is Paul coming along?
Yeah, he's got the link.
Great. Okay. Well, as soon as he clicks, I'll see him in the green room, and I'll bring him straight on. Morning,
afternoon. He not in the green room?
No.
Oh, let me see where he is.
We interrupt this broadcast to bring you a quick technical check.
Yes, sorry.
That's not a problem at all. Stick your comments in the chat window, by the way. If anything you'd like to ask Lynn or our guest who's going to be on in just a moment, Paul, I'm sure. We'd be absolutely delighted to answer them. I'm sure Lynn will address any questions on mental health. And just one more thing on mental health. Because I've heard the phrase carers need care too. What effect... I know the answer to this, but I want you to say it out loud, because for the benefit, again, of people watching, what's the effect on the wider family when there's a member who's really suffering?
It destroys families. It can destroy. I mean, it nearly destroyed ours. We were... And
your family is tight. I mean, I know you guys relatively well. You are...
People would look at us and think we had everything. But no, it destroyed us, because we were once this tight four, and then this unwanted intruder comes in, and it totally disrupts and it just destroys everything. And then, of course, with an eating disorder and anorexia, you almost have to play along with it, because you're afraid that if you don't, that person's not going to eat. And then obviously the consequences, anorexia has the biggest mortality rate of all the mental illnesses put together.
Right. So is it a mental? Let me help me understand it. Is it a mental illness that manifests physically?
Hang on, Paul's asking. He thought it was one.
Oh no. Hence, it's called the Midday Show.
Yeah, no. Sorry, viewers. This is very rude, and this is probably
not at all. They won't mind. They're a fairly forgiving bunch, apart from.
Oh, you good? I hope so. I'm just not. I always say that Neil's not organised, but I actually think it's me. So no, it destroys families, and it destroys family relationships as well. So I see it in my office all the time. And I think the longer it goes on, early intervention with any mental illness is key. And the longer it goes on,
Okay. There's so much we could talk about. I want to talk about early signs in a minute. I want to talk about whether it's mental or physical. What would you say to people that are feeling that family dynamic splitting apart? Because you haven't, and you're a very tight family. How have you managed to heal that?
I think you have to be really brave and face it head on. I remember the second time that Sam got ill with the OCD, I knew something was wrong, and I could see all the behaviours, and I felt her slowly disappearing and regressing again, disappearing, and just she was distant. And I was sort of thinking, I'll deal with it tomorrow. I'll deal with it tomorrow. But tomorrow doesn't come. You have to deal with it now. And I think that is the hardest part, is actually finding the courage from within to face it, because you don't know what, it's the unknown, because it's like the invisible illness. So you don't know, and you're almost afraid to tackle it because you'll open up a whole can of worms. And then once they're open, you've got to sort it out.
And the elephant in the room does need to be addressed.
It does.
Yeah.
Oh, he's going to get on. Bless him. He's getting on. He's going to get on.
Oh, that's brilliant. What is so anorexia? It's a mental illness, but obviously with knock-on physical symptoms. Is it? It's a mental thing.
So the stereotypical, there's quite a lot of ignorance around eating disorders and anorexia, and a lot of people think that anorexia, people are skinny or they want to be thin, but often or not, people will fall into it without even realizing the brain needs 500 calories a day just to function. So the brain on its own needs 500 calories a day.
The brain uses the majority of energy in our body, doesn't it?
So what happens is,
it's the most energy hungry organ, isn't it?
Yes. So and that's to function properly, whatever properly is for that person.
Yeah.
But I think, like with Sam, she did have low self-esteem. They were twins. Charlotte was in the top set. Sam was put in the bottom set. Sam did like her food. She was very athletic, but she did like her food. And I think she never really knew who she was, or probably liked who she was. She was always very jovial, happy. So I never really thought anything was wrong. But she lost weight through a virus at the Christmas. And people started to say to her, "You look really good, Sam." And it just went from there. And she thought, "Oh, I look," and you know what anyone says to anyone, "Oh, you've lost weight, you look really good. Have you lost weight? You look good." You think, "Oh."
Well, normally that's in the context of a good thing. And I'm sure the comments were well-intentioned. But are you saying that well-intentioned comments combined with a low self-esteem and a desire to fit into whatever normal is
I think she will
that?
say that it was a form of control. Everything else in her life was out of control, or she felt it was out of control, or she felt she wasn't good at anything, and she was good at this. But it happened over a period of 6 months. So it happened over from the Christmas, and then it was by the June that I noticed that she'd lost quite a lot of weight. And at first, when your child's a little bit overweight, you think, "Oh, yeah, that's good, they've lost weight." And you never dream at 12/13 that your child's going to end up with anorexia nervosa.
No, you wouldn't even associate that with that.
No, and then 20 years ago, it just didn't. I mean, she was the only one in her school that had it, which is really unusual now. And because she was so low in weight, everyone thought she was had cancer.
Now you say it's unusual
Then, but
then.
not now. Now I talk to people, and because we're so open, there was a lot more going on behind closed doors than what people would let on.
Because it's that thing. It's almost that embarrassing family secret. We've got to seem perfect to the outside world and sweep all these things under the carpet and not tell anyone. But that's really not helpful, is it?
But I think also as a mum or as a parent, sometimes you can feel a failure, like you failed, because, feeding your child is probably the most sort of natural, normal thing to do. But
well, let's clear that one up now. I mean, it doesn't, it's nothing to do with the, I suppose there's always exceptions, but I suppose the majority of cases, it's nothing to do with with bad parenting or anything like that, is it? It's
No,
not the parents.
I always say that parents do their best. Whatever their best is, they're doing their best.
Yeah.
And they're doing their best. 99.9%
Yeah.
of parents
Yeah.
are doing
I mean,
their
there's the 0.01% that are abusive, but we're not talking about
No,
that.
we're not. No.
No. Wow. What are the early signs apart from weight loss? Anything else?
I would say, so with someone that's suffering from, there's a lot of anxiety around as well. I would say that if you thought, and it's not just young people, anyone can have an eating disorder, which our film, which we'll get onto, will show that eating disorders can affect anyone, and mental illness can affect anyone, regardless of who you are, how old you are, what sex you are, and what gender and age and everything.
Yeah.
So I would say that it's behavior. If they become withdrawn, or they have a change in behavior, then you have to question why are they behaving like that. Often or not, they become withdrawn, they become preoccupied, they isolate themselves, and then obviously there's the physical signs. But if you think as a parent, carer, or friend, or even a grandparent or auntie, uncle, whoever, if you think something's wrong, then you must say.
Yeah, and of course, just because they're isolating themselves doesn't mean it's an eating disorder, because those behaviours could be, I don't know, if someone had got into drugs or something like that. So it's quite hard to diagnose, I would say. But like you say, no one knows the kids better than you do. So
that's why I think sometimes an early intervention is key. So with all these long
and what does early intervention look like? What does that look like?
So I would say that if you thought something was wrong, then learn as much as you can, read as much as you can, but take it all just what is relevant for you, not for anyone else, because there is an array of information out there, and you can become quite bogged down with it, and some of it can be some of it's not always conducive to where you are, and it leaves you feeling, oh my God. But just take what's right for you and your family, or you and your friend, or whatever.
Yeah.
And so then I would say the next approach is probably, sometimes it's good to research help and your next step before you approach the person, but is to approach the person and say, but not attack them.
That's key, isn't it?
I noticed you're a bit distant, or you seem a bit low. Is there anything you want to talk about? Is there anything going on? And then often or not, they'll be defensive, but you let them know
it's getting past the resistance, isn't it?
Yes, but often or not, they will want the help. I mean, Sam, bless her, thought she was going mad.
Well, I think if you're suffering from any kind of mental disorder, it's good to know that you're not going mad, number one. And number two, you're not the only one, because I've said this so many times on this show, any kind of mental condition makes you feel incredibly isolated just by the very nature of it. It's isolating, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's very easy to believe that you're the only one and that you're going crazy and there's something wrong with you. And if you look at Facebook, everyone else in the world is having an amazing life apart from you.
See, I think...
And none of those things are true. I mean, I know enough to be able to say that. They're not true. None of those things are true.
I mean, I think looking back, if you're lucky, we were quite lucky that Sam sort of went into it before social media had really exploded.
Yeah.
So she was, I think they were on Bebo and something else. It was just coming out. Whereas now I see a lot of people comparing them. And social media does I think it's not the cause, but it doesn't help.
Yes.
People blame social media. I don't think it's the cause in itself, but I don't think it's...
No, but it can't off aggravate it. And there's some very sick stuff on there. Sick as in bad, not sick as in good, depending on your age group. There's some really unpleasant stuff on there, but there's some brilliant things on there as well. And if it's used to be social, emphasis social media, then it's a good tool, but it's no more than that. I think I want to bring our other guest on and welcome him to the show. and then we're going to talk about the new project which we're all involved in. So a good time
Let me
to
get
welcome to the show, Mr. Paul Cooper. Good afternoon, sir.
Oh, good afternoon, Neil.
Here he
How are
is.
you?
Hi, Lynn. All right.
Hi,
Yeah,
darling.
good. Gosh, my background looks a bit busy, doesn't it? Is that a bit off-putting?
No, I'm always fascinated by people's backgrounds. So what have we got there?
There is an exercise bike, which is hardly used. And,
They're the best kind.
And I work with people with hoarding behaviours, and we talk about exercise bikes, aspirational hoarding. So if you exercise bikes are never used, but if you let it go, then you're letting go of the person you wanted to be when you bought it. So
Is that a bit like aspirational gym membership at the start of the year?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think there's some plastic ivy as well there, and a lamp.
Yes, and a whiteboard of some sort, and some rather nice ornamental type things.
Yeah.
Lovely and a light. Lovely to have you on the show, Paul. Welcome.
Oh, lovely to be on. Thank you, Neil.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and how you got to where you are today. Very briefly, just introduce yourself, sir. The forum's yours.
Yeah, well, I'm very lucky to start acting in my 60s. The only acting I'd done before was as a woodland bird in Snow White at the age of 4. So when
That's a pretty big role, though, man.
It is a big role. You had to peck the floor. It had a massive beak, but I put it slightly to one side. So I think I was, even then, trying to be a bit, off center. But yeah, my children had written a comedy, and my daughter said, "Well, you look a bit like me. Why don't you audition for the part of my dad?" So I did, and was very, very lucky to get it. So starting acting in my 60s, and I've done a few things since then. Yeah, that was 3 series and a special, This Country, which won 5 BAFTAs. Funnily enough, I was just watching TV, and I realized I went to the BAFTAs just over 3 years ago to pick up or on behalf of my son, and he didn't think he had any chance of winning, so was fishing in Wales, and he did win. And I've just realized I've never given it to him. So there's a BAFTA sitting up there with his name on. So
Right. You've never given it to him.
I haven't given it to him. I only just noticed that. So there we go.
I'm going to take you both with me, and this could only happen on live radio because there's someone at my door, and I actually am receiving an important parcel for someone later on. So it's a quick tour of my house on live radio.
Yeah,
Give me a minute. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon. It's the Midday Show, live from my door. Thank you very much indeed.
You make me die, Neil.
No, I wouldn't normally do that. That's not good radio discipline. However, it's a friend of mine's mobile phone, and and she'd be absolutely stuffed if I didn't get that today. So there we go. Now, what are we talking about? Oh yes.
Yes.
What we do professionally. That was it. So your daughter, she's done really well with this. It's that Daisy May Cooper, isn't it?
Yeah, and my son. Yeah, Daisy has gone on and done a series called "Am I Being Unreasonable?" So they've just finished filming the 2nd series, and she was also in an HBO and BBC joint project, Rain Dogs, which in Life magazine in the US was voted the 4th best TV serial last year. So that was a big one. And my son is in various things. He's just in Stags, which has just come out, and he's just finished a BBC documentary, 3-part documentary on folklore. So yeah, they're doing very well.
And are you enjoying the acting?
I love it. I can't really get enough of it, so I'm really, really grateful to.
It's always been an aspiration of mine as well.
Don't be grateful. I'm the one that's grateful. Everyone's just like, it's such a feel good. I'm a bit overwhelmed. I'll probably cry now when everyone's together.
That's all right. We'll allow that. So, and you mentioned you work with people with hoarding behaviours.
Yeah,
do you work in mental health as well?
No, not really. But you know, when you work with people, it's just that kind of talking, really. I've kind of stopped. I've been doing it for 8 years. I've stopped going into people's homes now, and we can't concentrate on training now. So we kind of train up the fire services and councils, housing associations, that kind of thing. But it's a big issue in this country. We think up to about 5% of the population, which is over 3 million, have hoarding behaviours.
Why do people do it, do you think? Is it my theory, and it's only my personal theory, is there's a fear of not ever being able to get any more, that there's a lack. So you have to hold it close, what you've already got, because there's never going to be any more. Am I right?
That's one of the triggers. There are numerous triggers.
Right.
But yeah, that kind of being deprived growing up, not having things, and then people, when they get money, that can be a two-way thing. Sometimes that can be just what we call compulsive acquiring, and they fill the house, but they don't have any particular attachment to the items, but sometimes they do. But the triggers are numerous, and it's people's go-to behavior. Some people might turn to alcohol, some people might turn to eating disorders.
Because it's a form of addiction, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the biggest one is probably bereavement.
Do you know, I was going to say that. Is it about holding on to memories at all costs?
Sentimental is one of the things. But normally, if say a partner dies, the first thing that goes is the other side of the bed, and then the bedroom. So
right.
You basically fill the space where it's filling a void. So
I'm sorry to smile, but I wasn't smiling at that. Something's just happened in the room in front of me, and I cannot begin to tell you what it is. But that's what I'll tell you when I meet you in person when we're filming. But I can't say it on radio. but I will be having words after the show. Trust me.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the new projects. Very excited to. I'm going to be picking your brains about acting, by the way, so I'm going to hassle you all day. But let's talk about the new project. We've got the film A Day in the Life with OCD, A Day in the Life with Anxiety, and now the new one. Drum roll, please.
A Day with an Eating Disorder.
A Day. Tell us all about that.
So I think, like I was saying before, eating disorders, I think, are what I've become known for, probably in quite an unorthodox way, because my way of approaching recovery and the way that I think about it and is different to the norm. And I think, like we were saying, when Sam was going through it, there was no hope. This is your life. You're going to be like this forever. In other words, and even now, within the care system, they're offering palliative care to people that they don't think will recover. Well, everyone has to have a chance to recover. Offering palliative care to anorexia sufferers is absolutely appalling. So I wanted.
Yeah, I must admit, I balked at that a bit.
It is, but basically, it's because people are afraid of eating disorders as well. They're afraid, particularly anorexia, because of its consequences, and people are afraid to challenge it. But because there's this generic way that you're supposed to get better, or this journey that you're supposed to do, that everyone, so they put you in a box again rather than treat people differently. And recovery is different for everyone. And I think that's and also there's so many different guises in an eating disorder. It's not just anorexia. There's bulimia, there's comfort eating, there's
what's the difference between anorexia and bulimia, just for the education of people?
So anorexia is where the person starves themselves, so they become very thin, and obviously there are devastating consequences to that. Bulimia,
that's what happened to Karen Carpenter, wasn't it? She was so she was anorexic, right? Okay.
Yeah. And also, do you remember Nikki Graham, the Big Brother young girl? She was lovely.
The name is familiar. Yes.
So trapped. She died through the pandemic because she was she wasn't allowed. Yeah, it was absolutely devastating because she couldn't get out to get the help. and bulimia is where they will eat, but they'll purge through exercise, through making themselves sick or laxatives or whatever. So I wanted to show, obviously there's so much to show in 12 minutes. So we're showing 4 eating disorders, so, bereavement, hoarding, alcoholism, and also OCD, all in 12 minutes. We've tried to make it light-hearted, because by making things light-hearted but equally emphatic, hopefully that will educate the viewer more and keep them
that is something
interested.
I've noticed about your previous productions. They do have a light-hearted, sometimes even comedic twist, but it's done very, very tastefully, and like you use the perfect word, very empathetically as well. And the consequence is it is educational, because a subject like this, it is serious, but it doesn't have to be solemn or dour, does it?
I think the way that we've got through it as a family, and you'll know this from the time you've spent with us, is that we do laugh. Not so much in the beginning, I have to be really honest, but you know, now even Sam now, some of the stuff that goes on, she'll laugh at herself, although she can't not do it, but she'll laugh at herself, and we'll laugh along. But I think, so the film started as, again, we wrote, it's taken a year to write the script, because the last thing that I want is it to be triggering. The last thing I want is anyone to watch it and be triggered. So we've made it as non-triggering but equally educational as possible. We're ambassadors for SANE, the charity, who have got a helpline actually, which we'll give out at the end. They have supported the script, so they've read the script, and to have a charity standing side by side with us on this is, I'm really blessed. And then just the momentum of the film has just grown. I think Paul was the first actor that we started.
Yes, I'm definitely going to talk to Paul about it in a second. Do you remember the SANE number off by heart? I'll pop it on the screen now.
Of SANE, let me get it up on my phone, because it's really important.
Yeah, we get that straight on the screen.
SANE offer a helpline 365 days a year, and I think here it is. It is 0300 304 7000, and they work 4 till 10 o'clock, so 4 p.m. till 10 p.m. 365 days a year. There is someone at the end of their phone,
and that's really good to know.
They're lovely people. They're trained, and they're there to help, and they want to help.
Yeah. Paul, why did you want to be involved? And also, I'm going to put your name on the screen. Do you have a website I can put there as well if people want to find you?
Who, me?
Yes, you, sir.
The only website, I'm also director of a children's football charity. So, the hoarding one. Yeah, that is www.hoardingdisordersuk.org.
But Paul's got an Instagram account as well.
Yeah, Paul57 Cooper at Paul57 Cooper.
Popping that up now. Why did you want to get involved, Paul, apart from your love of acting?
Because I've two things really. I've always struggled a bit, or have later in life, with eating. Lynn said you can be the chap that can't stop eating. So I thought, typecast again, and I can't.
I didn't know that at the time.
So I was cast as an annoying idiot in her first film. I wouldn't take it personally.
Typecast again, eh, Neil? Yeah, that's the feeling. So I kind of eat when I'm stressed or bored. I know some people don't eat at all. So that was one of the things, but also talking about anorexia. I used to work in a school in the inclusion center, so for a number of years, working with children with the behavioral problems, but also social and emotional. So we had a number of children that would come in and do their work with us who had anorexia. So quite interestingly, my boss said you can make or break a child with one word or a couple of words.
Yeah.
And talking to some of the people that had anorexia, it was just an off the cuff remark someone made, you know, that started them on that, you know, incredible.
That's very true.
Slope,
Yeah.
you know.
But then there
Very
must be a
true.
weakness there in the first place, because I'm not saying that's not true. I do believe it, and it's terrifying. But there's something must be. It must trigger a deeper thing. Something must have been there already. Otherwise, everyone that had an off the
I
cuff
think
remark
it's a
would be
lack of
anorexic, wouldn't they?
self-belief and low self-esteem. You know, I mean,
You
people
said at the
say,
start of this, knowing who you are, knowing who you really are, and you don't do that if you're desperately trying to fit in, which Sam was, wasn't she?
she wouldn't know. She actually, I do admire her. She didn't want to fit in,
Oh,
but she felt like she had to.
well, that's even worse. Feeling you have to.
Yeah, I mean, in her poetry book, I read it to one of my clients actually the other day. She wrote a brilliant poem called Peer Pressure. And not everyone wants to fit the norm, but I think also, like Paul said, it can be an off the cuff. But then if they're feeling low or got low self-esteem, that one comment can spiral them into, if they, I mean, people say to me, oh, I believe that you're susceptible to it. I brought two girls up exactly the same. They experienced exactly the same at exactly the same time. And one of them's had severe mental health issues and one hasn't.
And they're twins.
And they're twins. And they're beautiful. And I do think that you're more susceptible or you're not. Different people handle different things. I mean, Charlotte's always been sunny side up, hasn't she? Whereas Sam can be, you know, probably sunny side down, but not.
And how, Paul, do you, without feeling like you're walking on eggshells, how do you handle that very sensitive issue of being careful of what you say to these sort of folks? Trying to ask as many questions to broaden understanding on the show.
Being positive, really, and just watching language, mirroring language. I very quickly realized working at school that it's the girls at school that get the really tough time. They are under so much pressure, peer pressure. I don't know what happens to boys later on, because obviously, you know, I think we had Suicide Prevention Day yesterday.
Yes.
You know, it's males that are much more likely to take their own lives. So something happens.
That is true. The statistics aren't good, but maybe you're right. Maybe that's a little bit later.
But girls were under a huge amount of pressure. So not only with eating disorders, but self-harming. I'm going back 10 or 12 years now, but they had little kits, little self-harm kits with razors in and little neat little bags and stuff, you know, which was, you know, this was all new to me. You know, it was a real eye opener. You know, having gone to secondary school in the 60s, it was a different kettle of fish, you know, very, very different.
What's changed, do you think?
Well, I think things have changed incredibly in the last 10, 12 years, because obviously when I was at, you know, doing that, working in a school, you know, there was another, you know, there wasn't anything to do with the, you know, the transgender issue hadn't come up at all. So it's changed even more. I think social media is a thing, but I don't know. I think girls have it really difficult. These kind of friendship groups and trying to just the pressure, you know, huge amount of pressure. And when you see it, you know, it's on TV about how you need to look and, you know,
how you need to sound, how you need to respond to the opposite sex, how you need to, there's rules, or I could call it rules, if you like, bullshit rules laid down for everything. And very little of those really probably bear much relevance to the actual person, and certainly not what they need for their nurture and blooming and growth in the moment, surely.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I you know, marvel at the kids that actually are able to come out of school the other side. You know, I mean, it's a damn difficult time. Probably the most difficult time of, you know, a lot of people's lives.
And hormones are raging at that age anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's a real eye opener. You know, totally different from my day. It appeared to be a much kind of simpler life. We had absolutely no pastoral care whatsoever,
No.
and we took a lot of beatings. I went to a grammar school. You were getting hit every day by teachers. You'd be locked up now for the stuff they did. They'd punch you.
I know they were phasing that out at our school. When I came in, the teachers would still give you a clump occasionally, but they didn't have corporal punishment as such. They were just phasing that out then. But when I was in school, so you're in the movie then. So you play. Tell us again who you play in the movie.
Yeah, I play Brian, who's lost his wife Julie 5 years before, and he keep on their
he's
wedding.
Read the script. He's read.
Yeah,
the
I've
script.
read the script, Lynn. It's great. And every year on their wedding anniversary, he has a barbecue. Now this is the 5th year in.
But Julie's there in the earth.
Julie's there, yeah. So in response, I hoard, and yeah, Lynn's got that spot on because it's probably the biggest trigger bereavement, as we talked before, and I can't stop eating basically. So yeah, double whammy. So I put on this barbecue that I don't think that many people want to go to.
Right.
And not another one. And Julie,
it doesn't sound that much fun, but it'll make great film. But in real life, it wouldn't be something I'd want to go to.
No, and you can't sit in Julie's seat as well. So if you're standing,
so it's all very awkward as well. Yeah.
So
now, in real life, would that be? Let's say that was real. Would that be helpful to someone to go along and play along? Or would it be more helpful to challenge?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think I might have said that's enough after the 2nd anniversary, let alone the 5th. But
I think for me, I'd probably show my face for 10 minutes if I had to. If you know what I mean. Because
grab a burger and go. Yeah, take away. Yeah.
Yeah, eat it in the car and go down some spoons and get some cheap food. What do you think? Because you could argue that could be enabling someone.
Yeah, I mean, no, I think that the Lynn script brings everything out, and it's superbly weaved together. But as you said, it makes it. It makes it interesting, and also the funny moments. Brian also has this voice, when he's talking to people off cat. His inner. We hear his inner thoughts as well, which are in total contrast when someone asks him a question. How are you doing, Brian? So his inner thoughts we hear, and then he actually, talks to that person. And it's completely the opposite of
along the lines of his thoughts are absolutely destroying him, and he's going, "Yeah, I'm fine." That kind of thing.
Most powerful bit probably. So there's 4 eating disorders. So there's 4 people there at this barbecue with eating disorders. But Sam's playing a recovering person with anorexia, and she's got the most powerful bit we're going to do, and it's not being done when we're filming it, it's being done somewhere else, is that she's got a devil and an angel on her shoulder. So which is obviously quite apparent for someone suffering with any mental illness, they've got 2 voices in their head. So that's what we're trying to show as well with and she's going to dress up as a devil and an angel and be sitting on her shoulder.
Oh, that's clever.
Yeah, so it's quite clever, isn't it? So but no, it's people like Paul and you, and we've got a full cast of all professional actors, including
Bobby Davrow's in it, for goodness sake.
Yes. Yeah, he's giving me a day. Yeah.
Is he? Quick Bobby Davro story. He seems to
It'll be the Bobby Davro show the day that he's here, I do warn you.
Not if I'm on set on the same day, excuse me.
We're all on set. There's about 40 of us. So it's not on set, it's at my house. It's all being done here.
Oh,
So
even better.
we'll pray for good weather.
Quick story, because I do stand up. There's a wonderful comedian that's been on this show actually. He was in the forces, and he talks about recovering from, because when he left the forces, there's very little that the forces actually do to support the mental health of the people that leave it, which is unbelievable. It's massive homeless problem, mental health problems, PTSD,
hoarding as well. We get a lot of ex-services hoarding. Yeah.
I'm not surprised. It's that, and that's going to be trauma based without a doubt, isn't it? Yeah, or that desperate need for control. And Jay, his name's Jay Saunders, and he's been helped by an army charity that had a drive to get help people heal through stand-up comedy. And I met him at a comedy gig I was doing. We were on the same bill, a little pub in Southsea in Hampshire. Really lovely guy. We got talking, and then next time I saw him, he was about to do his first paid gig supporting Bobby Davro.
Wow,
which was really cool, and it went really well. Yeah, just thought I'd share that.
I think, am I right in that he's playing my brother? Is that right? Yeah. So it's a bit like twins, you know. I'm 6'2". I'm not sure how.
I remember that film. That was great, wasn't it?
We might have an offshoot film, Lynn, if you want to write that script.
Yes, a spin-off, another franchise.
Yeah.
What we are hoping this time is, because this is just a snapshot of everyone and their lives. What we're hoping is that it will be picked up, or I've got a couple of meetings planned that then we'll be able to make it into a series so that you can explore
the ongoing stories of various
of the
characters. The first one sets the scene for characterization, and people really relate to the characters. And frankly, with stuff like this, with so many people affected, who wouldn't? Yeah. It's going to relate to so many people. So that's a brilliant idea, isn't it? Where can people find these films? A Day in the Life with OCD, for example, is that findable online?
At the moment, A Day with OCD is findable on YouTube. If you either type my name in or A Day with OCD, that will come up. Yeah. A Day with Anxiety at the moment is on a closed link because we're hoping that Amazon will take it.
Oh.
So at the moment, they can't. It's not for public view. We have uploaded it to Amazon, and we're just waiting. It's a long process whether they will take it. And then with A Day, we didn't do a showing for A Day with Anxiety, but with A Day with an Eating Disorder, we are doing a proper professional showing. And then we'll just see where I've got my team around me is really tight, but it's big. It's all the same people. Everyone's just lovely. And it's just a real team effort to get it to where once it's filmed, then we'll work out what we're going to do with it. But there's nothing like this where it's uplifting, educational, but equally telling it as it is.
And that's the real skill of it, because it does tell it how it is, and it doesn't put any punches, but at the same time, it's got funny moments, and it's done in a light-hearted manner. And it's
which makes people want to watch it, whereas before some of the documentaries and that I've watched, particularly on eating disorders, they just make you want to switch them off because they just make you think there's no hope, and there's always.
If you'll pardon the pun, it does make you feel that it's no hope, like it is a death sentence. I'm still shocked by what you said about palliative care.
That now has been. I've been contacted by 3 families that their young girls are on, and it makes me cry, and you know, I'm going to get upset now, but I look at my Sam and I just see how far, you know, she still struggles, as you know she does, Paul, but she's a warrior, and she gets up and she challenges her voices every day.
And she is, and she's an awful lot better though. I mean, and you are, and without you that wouldn't have happened. But it's just
all of us.
Well, okay, yeah, but particularly you were the driving force behind it, you and the people closest to you. Sorry, but you are. And this is why I'm just sort of saying this in public, so in the hope that people might watch this back a day later, a week later, 10 years later. So if they have been given that awful information or offered something like palliative care, they go, no, there is hope, that there is possibility.
You can question. You have to, like when we went through the system, you think they know better, and sometimes they do, but they don't. It's up to you to keep asking, and don't be afraid to keep asking or challenge what they're saying or what's going on, because you know, everyone's different. Everyone can recover differently. And, you know, don't be afraid to ask people questions and challenge what's being said to you. I mean, we didn't to start with. It was only when I think I probably snapped and thought, right, well, we're not doing this anymore. And then I walked out or stormed out or whatever I did. But
what was the straw that broke the camel's back for you? What was it when you had that moment and you went, do you know what? I'm not doing this.
well, we were in a family counselling meeting, and it was something was said, and I just thought, and I looked at my family, and Kevin looked like he was just going to lurch across the room and grab the doctor, and Charlotte really angry, and Sam was just sitting there like she was just a skeleton of herself. And I just looked, and I just thought, and I was listening to what they'd said, and I just thought, this isn't it, you know. And but it was mainly my family. We were falling apart. We'd fallen apart, and I just thought that this isn't. And I looked at Sam, and I thought, none of this is working. So I just got up, and they didn't let us go very easily, but you know, thankfully, due to my GP.
But they can't force you to stay, can they? There's no law here.
They didn't then. This was 20 years ago, and that's why I'm so passionate about this now, because we're 20 years on, and it's worse than what it's ever been. You know, the treatment, people just aren't, and the whole issue has exacerbated. But I think now I wouldn't advise someone to do it now, because I think it wouldn't be so easy, and they could have other people could get involved, and I would hate that. I would hate anyone else to go through what we did. But there are people suffering every day. I think I put a mum that I'm working with, I put, with her permission, put her message in our actors group about, you know, and she was at breaking point.
Do these so-called alternative treatments help with things like this, like the OCD and the anorexia, the tapping, the mindfulness, neurolinguistic programming?
Yeah, I'm a huge believer in, and remember, not one, what I do doesn't work for everyone, but not one thing is that it's not like you take a pill and it's all gone. There's different, and there are so many other different types of therapies, and some people might respond better to them than the generic route.
Because you mentioned earlier, there's supposed to quote you said there's supposed to be a generic route where everyone gets better. But of course, you can't. It's like writing a book on parenting when all kids are different. You know, there's no should here. But what's it supposed to look like according to the people that propagate these ideas?
I think to actually access treatment now through the system, you have to fit a certain criteria. And that's all around BMI, which I don't agree with either, because we're all different. And
well, BMI is yesterday's news. BMI is not the benchmark anymore, is it?
But it is to a lot of places that you have to get to a certain BMI before you. So basically, you have to be really ill before you can access treatment.
But isn't that shutting the stable door after the horse has bolted? You were talking about
it. And the longer you leave a mental illness, the more ingrained it becomes. You know, I look back to 20 years ago, and if I knew then what I know now, and I didn't take Sam anywhere, would she be better? Would it have gone? Because I've seen it go. I've had kids in my office, and I've seen it go with intense treatment 3-4 times a week. You know, I've seen it can go. If you get in early, it can disappear.
Which circles back to our earlier conversation about looking for the signs. If you just joined us at this point in the show, watch the replay on YouTube. You know, looking for the signs that, you know, the withdrawal or the changes in behaviours. It's all we talked about it earlier. It's worth going back and watching, and you know, get involved early and find your team of allies who's going to support you. In your case, it was a school, it was the GP, wasn't it? And, you know, and the people that don't support you off by the wayside, you know, those that mind don't matter and those that matter don't mind. It's been a fascinating conversation. Our hour's nearly up. Can I thank you both so much for being on?
Thank you for having us.
Yeah,
I'd also like to say thank you to everyone that's supporting this film. And there's a lot of local businesses that are supporting the film. And like you, Neil, you're like one of my dear friends. And Paul,
no, it's absolute pleasure. I particularly wanted to get you on the show to talk about it, and I look forward to seeing where it goes. You know, here Netflix.
Well, you've got to come and film first.
All right, then. I suppose so. Paul, it's been absolutely lovely to meet you as well. Congratulations on the new acting career. Congratulations to your son and daughter as well. It sounds like they're going absolute great guns. And I look forward to meeting you in person on filming day.
Wonderful. Look forward to it, Neil.
All the best. hoardingdisordersuk.org and on Insta at Paul57Cooper. If you'd like to contact Paul, Lynn is lyncrilly.com. Very nicely designed website, if I might say so. And the same number, if you have been affected by anything you've heard on the show and you'd like to reach out for some help, a fantastic charity, like Lynn said earlier, 0300 304 7000. 0300 304 7000. I'm Neil Long. Russ Kane is back on Friday. With Chantal Ricard's Screen Queen, Jonathan Baz, Theatre Critic, and Phil Dave co-presenting. And I'll see you next Monday on the Midday Show. But from now, thank you to my fantastic guests. Good afternoon to both of you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank
all
you
the
very
best.
much.
Good morning.
Good
Bye.
afternoon.
Bye.